Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we all doing? I know this might seem like a really strange live to do, but I'm going to do it anyway because this happened yesterday, and I thought it'd be a really interesting lesson. And I was listening to this podcast about Jesy Nelson. I immediately thought of some stuff that happens in business. I thought of some stuff that happens to business owners, to maybe you watching. I know it happens to me sometimes. And I'll give you the backstory to this as we get into this. But I'm just literally, I thought this was just such an important thing to share. But it is a bit of an unusual angle for me to take. But a few years ago, and I know this is going to seem really sad, but it's a number of years ago, I had a very difficult time in my business. Coming up to a decade ago, a very, very difficult time. And certain songs kind of, you remember them and they become associated with a period of time in your life. You'll have this, I've got this. And this is the weird bit. One of the songs that became associated with that difficult time in my business, about 9 years ago, whatever it was actually a Little Mix song. And I know I'm far too old to like Little Mix. I don't listen to all their stuff, but this one song. So I was playing it yesterday, and I got curious what's happened to Little Mix. So, if you're not aware, Little Mix, was a big band in the UK. But there's one member of the band who called Jesy Nelson. So Little Mix, girl band, huge teenage and young girl following. And Jesy Nelson actually left the band. There is a business point here to this. I'm going to share it with you. She left the band, and it was just around the pandemic time or just after the pandemic. She left the band because of the online abuse she was getting about her appearance. Now, she's a beautiful young woman, but she didn't fit the stereotypes of what a pop star female should look like, apparently. And the abuse online, the comments on social media were horrific. We're not going to dig into that bit. We're going to talk about the conversation she had with her mum and her brother. And this is what I was listening to yesterday on a podcast. So Jesy obviously said in this podcast that the reason she left Little Mix was because of all of that abuse, and she just couldn't do it anymore. She just couldn't handle it anymore. But she almost quit the band just after they won X Factor. So just before they hit fame, and they were, they're on the rise, but before they hit their peak of fame, she almost quit. And her mum was saying, you don't need to do this. I just want you to be happy. And that's what her mum was telling her, which is what any good parent would. But her brother said something different. And he turned around to her and said, you can't go back and work as a barmaid because that life's over now because you've been on TV. So what are you going to do? And he said to her, this is my paraphrase, but suck it up, suck up all of that, make as much money as you can and get out. Make as much money as you can and get out. And as I was listening to her explain it, and she was very emotional about it, you could see it's done a lot of hurt to her. But she's changed the life of her family. She's set up for life, and she can do whatever she wants to do. And I'm not condoning the abuse or any of that stuff that happened to her at all. But it made me draw a parallel with some of the things that happen in business. We often will avoid doing a very difficult thing because of the hurt, the pain, the difficulty, all of those things. And we will do the mum thing. What's the best thing for me right now? And it's clear from Jesy, the best thing for her at that point should have been to dump the band. But the long term for her was actually better for her to stick it out, to push through, to do it. Now imagine that. Imagine that. You're going on stage and you've seen all the nasty comments, all the comments on her figure, everything. And she's going on stage, dancing, and they don't necessarily wear the most, prudish clothing either. I remember me getting trolled, and I've lost a lot of weight, but I got trolled once on social media, and it was very, very personal. And even though you go, brush it off, it does kind of sink in and cut in. Imagine having that going on over and over and over every week in newspapers, on comment, not just like once, every single day. That must be horrific to go through, but she went through it. She's set for life financially. Her family's set for life. Her kids are set for life. I know there's some things going on with her kids at the moment, but she's created a whole new life by just pushing through some of the most difficult things. And that's the parallel that I got from it of like, how prepared are we to actually push through and achieve the things we want to achieve? Or do we go, oh, that feels a little uncomfortable, I don't want to do that. Or what if this? What if that? Imagine that. Imagine if you can go, well, hang on a minute. I'm going to deprioritize what will get me to where I want to be because of some discomfort. Because we're never going to experience the depth of what that girl's experienced. We're never going to have to deal with that kind of level of abuse. Ever. Nowhere near. But sometimes we sit there and we wonder about, well, if I post this, what if somebody thinks this? And what if somebody thinks that? And so what do? We kind of middle of the road the post. I actually thought twice about doing this live today, because I thought, are people going to think I'm weird talking about Little Mix? Probably. But it's like, it's an important lesson. I thought it was important, so I'm going to share it. It's my social media. You love it or you hate it. And this is the bit that I think we really have to kind of get over. If we really want to achieve everything we want to achieve, whether that be, clients, whether that be pipeline, whether that be, maybe you're a business owner and it's like, actually, I want to find more clients than I need so I can bin that one off because I've got some clients that are a bit shitty. You need to push through all of these barriers and go, I must not give, and I'll caveat this in a minute. You should not give a flying fuck about what the internet thinks of you, because the internet doesn't pay your bills. And this is the bit that really got me when I watched her, because she was really emotional about it, but she actually did not regret the decision she made. Even though she went through, I don't know how long, years of daily online comments. Millions of people know that band, billions probably. And she went through it because she saw the strategic aim at the end. And then you bring that back to our world and go, I don't want to say that because what if my competitors think I'm an idiot? I don't want to say that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that because what if? She went on stage and some of the outfits they wear are, I'd say, soft porn, but some of the outfits they wear, and she probably, can you imagine, she's in the dressing room, dressed up in hardly anything in many cases, and she probably knows what abuse is going to come at her because of what she's wearing, because of her body shape and whatever, right? She'll know what they're going to say. But she did it anyway. She did it anyway because she was doing it for herself and she was doing it for her family and her future. And that's the real point. I'm sure I've generalized in places. I don't want to belittle her experience, so don't think I'm doing that. It's just that's what I drew from it for myself. If you want to go out there, you want to make an impact, whether you're a salesperson, a business owner, a marketer, you cannot afford to let the opinions of others or what you think the opinions of other people might be, because that's the other thing, role playing it out in your head. It's going to cost you. You're basically saying, I am refusing to do something because of the opinions of people who don't matter. And it's, especially if you're, British, you're trained to don't stand out, don't step out, don't, play it safe. And human beings naturally are social creatures, so we want to conform. It's in our nature to conform. But actually, there's things you want to say, there's things you want to do, there's things you want to share. There's people you want to approach that if you don't do it, you are choosing to put the crowd over your personal goals, the crowd over your future. And I just wanted to share that this morning because I thought it was really interesting seeing that podcast. I'm sure you can go on Google and find the Jesy Nelson, the podcast, and really kind of dig into it because it's a fascinating story of somebody who's literally gone through hell, but done it willingly, knowing it was for a greater good, for the future, change her family's life, change her life, and now she's set for life. So it just made me think. I've had a whole load of conversations with people in the past where we've talked about, I don't want to post that because of this, or if I do that, what will they think? You can't live like that. You can't do business like that. You can't operate like that, where basically you put yourself in a prison where you don't do things because of the first one, the big one, is what you think other people think. You basically assume what they're going to think. And half the time, when I've worked with a client and they've said to me, but my audience will think this if I do that, I go, how do you know? Well, how do you know? Or are you just making that up? Often a lot of the things that go through our head and we say, those people will say this, it's usually actually our insecurities, and we're putting them on somebody else so that it feels easier to say we shouldn't do that because of the audience. Half the audience, one of the fascinating things about, and I'm not saying do this, but being controversial online. I'm not saying do this, but being controversial online is like creating a lightning rod. It really polarizes. Some people will love it and some people will hate it. The one thing you have to understand is being middle of the road and safe gets lost. So if there are things that you really stand for, believe in, things that you really advocate for, things that you want to push for, you cannot let restraint of the perception of what other people might think, what you think other people might think, hold you back. Because that boldness, that opinion, that belief that you want to share, that stuff you want to do is the breakthrough. I had a call with a client the other day and they had people in their network who were the perfect fit prospects. Perfect. And they said, I don't want to message them because will they not get annoyed with me messaging them? And it's like, no, you're afraid here. You're afraid here. This is not actual legitimate concern. You're afraid. You're afraid of rejection. Because there's two ways to outreach. It doesn't have to be pushy and aggressive and salesy. It can be, let's start a conversation and see what happens. But their immediate reaction was to go to, they're going to hate me, they're going to reject me, but we hadn't even discussed what we were going to do. So I highly recommend watching this podcast. I know you might think, oh, Dean, I'm not really interested in a teenage pop band. You don't have to be. They're in the 30s, by the way. They're not much different in age to me. I couldn't believe that. It's worth thinking about, what am I putting off that I really want to achieve because of the opinions of other people? Credible story of what she did and how she just pushed through it all. So what are you holding back on? What are you not doing? What's on the other side of all of these things in the middle of, all these opinions and worries and all that kind of stuff? The Jesy Nelson lesson, like 5 years of hell or whatever it is. I can't remember how many years it was. But she was set for life because she was prepared to endure that, not just discomfort, horrific discomfort. What I challenge you to do is go, my discomfort's going to be tiny compared to that. If she can do it, you can do it. So go and look at the podcast. I thought it was pretty good. If you're wondering why I'm dressed like this, I'm filming. So I know it looks a little strange for me to be dressed up like this, but it's only funerals and lawsuits, and I don't get many of those at the moment, so it's quite good. Go and look at the podcast. It's worth watching.